She snapped at me in front of her friends. "You can't even satisfy me, let alone afford a real vacation." I stood up, took out my phone, and played the voicemail from her boss. The words didn't just land. They detonated in the center of our table, shattering the fragile illusion of a pleasant evening into a million jagged pieces. We were at Azure, the impossibly trendy rooftop bar she'd begged to go to, surrounded by her inner circle. Jessica, with her judgmental smirk, Qley, who documented everything for social media, and Maya, who always seemed to be calculating the cost of everyone's outfits. The air was thick with the cloying scent of expensive perfume, bubbling champagne, and a quiet, simmering tension I'd grown accustomed to. She, my wife Lena, was on her third glass of Veuve Clicquot, the alcohol loosening her tongue and sharpening her cruelty with each sip. The conversation had turned, as it often did, to vacations. Jessica was gushing about her upcoming safari in Kenya, a not-so-subtle flex paid for by her hedge fund husband. Qley was debating between Sardinia and Mykonos for the summer. And then the spotlight, inevitably, turned to us. "What about you two?" Maya asked, her eyes glinting with faux curiosity. "Any big plans?" I had opened my mouth to describe the cozy, well-researched trip to a beautiful mountain lodge I'd been planning for our anniversary, but Lena cut me off with a derisive snort. "Him? Plan a vacation?" she slurred, waving her glass dismissively, the liquid sloshing precariously. The table tittered obediently. My face grew warm, but I remained silent, a tactic I'd perfected. It never worked. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing, aiming for the kill shot. "He can't even satisfy me in bed," she announced to the entire group, her voice loud enough to draw glances from neighboring tables. A few people winced. Jessica looked delighted. "Let alone satisfy my desire for a proper vacation, he's inadequate, in every single way." The word hung in the air, ugly and final. Inadequate. It was her favorite weapon, designed to eviscerate what little confidence I had left. For months, this had been the pattern. Private jabs, public humiliations, a constant chipping away at my manhood, my career, my worth. She had created a narrative of my failure to mask her own spiraling insecurities, and I had taken it, believing I was keeping the peace, protecting our marriage. But this was different. This was a bridge too far, a line crossed in a public square with an audience. The embarrassment was a hot flush, but it was instantly quenched by a wave of something else, glacial, absolute clarity. The time for silence was over. A profound calm settled over me. I slowly placed my napkin on the table, the linen suddenly feeling symbolic. I pushed my chair back, the legs making a soft, deliberate sound on the concrete floor. Every eye at the table and several from nearby were locked on me. They expected me to mutter an excuse, to flee to the restroom, to slink away like a beaten dog. That's what I always did. Lena watched me, a triumphant, vicious glint in her eye, sure she had landed the winning blow. Instead, I stood up to my full height. I didn't look at her. I reached into the front pocket of my jeans, my movements slow, deliberate, almost ceremonial. I pulled out my phone, its black screen reflecting the twinkling fairy lights strung above us. I tapped the screen, my password, and navigated to a specific app. I had synced it this afternoon, a strange premonition guiding my actions. The table watched in confused silence. Lena's smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice losing some of its bravado. I didn't answer. I found the file I was looking for. A voicemail, saved this morning at 9:47 a.m. I plugged in a small portable speaker I'd brought, a nifty gadget I used for work presentations. I connected it via Bluetooth. The soft chime of a successful connection seemed deafening.
Then I pressed play, and her voice filled the air.
But it wasn't the shrill, contemptuous voice from moments before. This voice was something else entirely. Tremulous, choked with tears, dripping with a desperation so raw it was almost painful to hear. "Mr. Evans, hi, it's Lena from accounting. Please, I'm begging you." A ragged sob echoed from the speaker, causing Jessica to jump. "Don't fire me. Please, don't. I'll do anything. The quarterly audit wasn't my fault. I panicked. The missing $15,000 from the client retreat fund. I can explain. I can pay it back. Just give me time. Please, my husband can't know I lost my job 6 weeks ago. He thinks I'm still a VP. He can't know I'm a fraud." The recording ended with another gut-wrenching sob, followed by the dull tone of a hung-up call. I stopped the playback. The silence that followed was absolute, heavier and more profound than any noise. You could have heard a champagne bubble pop. The color drained from Lena's face with terrifying speed, leaving her a ghastly ashen mask of pure, unadulterated horror. Her champagne flute slipped from her numb fingers, hitting the table with a crack and spilling expensive champagne all over the white linen like a stain of truth. Her friends weren't smirking anymore. They were statues, their faces frozen in various stages of shock and dawning comprehension. Jessica's mouth was a perfect O of horror. Qley had her phone out, but she wasn't recording. She was just holding it, stunned. I finally spoke, my voice low, steady, and colder than the ice in their forgotten glasses. I looked only at Lena. "The only thing inadequate in this relationship," I said, each word a carefully placed stone, "is your ability to tell the truth. The vacation money you've been nagging me for, the money I've been working double shifts to save, it's been quietly covering the massive credit card debt you hid from me. And it's been paying back the $15,000 you embezzled from your company before they could press charges." Her eyes were wide, unblinking saucers of terror. She tried to form words, but only a faint gasp came out. I wasn't done. I turned my gaze to her best friend, Jessica, the one who'd just been bragging about her safari. Jessica flinched under my stare. "Oh, and Jessica," I said, my tone conversational, as if discussing the weather, "that $5,000 bonus Lena gave you last month to invest in your side hustle, the one she said was from her big VP bonus, that was part of the stolen funds. The police and the forensic accountants from her former company will be very interested in that. You'll be wanting to give that back. They tend to call that conspiracy, or aiding and abetting." Jessica's face went from shocked to utterly mortified. She looked from me to Lena, her expression morphing into one of betrayed fury. "You bitch!" she hissed at Lena, scrambling back from the table as if Lena were contagious. The perfect friend group was imploding in real time. I had one final thing to do. I picked up my half-finished glass of water. I didn't throw it. I simply held it for a moment, then placed it back down, a symbol of my own restraint. The investigator I hired 3 weeks ago, once I realized our accounts were bleeding and your stories weren't adding up, he sends his regards. His full report, along with this recording and all the financial documents, is already with my lawyer and the police. I turned my back on the ruin of her life. I didn't look back. I walked calmly past the stunned patrons, past the waitstaff who were pretending not to listen, and toward the exit. The elevator right down was silent. As I stepped out into the cool night air, my phone vibrated. It was a text from my brother. "You okay? Heard it might be a rough night." I typed back a single sentence. It was. But it's over. Some satisfaction, the deep and lasting kind, can't be bought with a vacation or a fancy title. It's earned through truth, and I had just cashed in.